A new Mitch Marner trade suitor has been revealed as rumors and reports are circulating that one surprise mystery team could enter the Marner sweepstakes. We're going to break that down in this episode, as well as discuss what a trade could look like and what the Leafs could get in return for the superstars. So we'll break all that down in this episode. Before we do, extremely close to 10,000 subscribers. If you could hit the button, we're probably less than 100 subscribers away. So go down. If you're part of the 80%, it would mean the world to Darius and myself. 10,000 has been a goal of ours for a while. So again, thank you guys for your support. But Darius, a lot to discuss today. Mitch Marner, there's an article that dropped. There's been some reports and rumors circulating around Twitter, around these different article websites, and this is one let's just get into it now. It's the Anaheim Ducks. So all those in-season trade rumors surrounding Duck star Trevor Zegras could turn into a reality in a Marner trade to Anaheim. The Ducks have been seeking veteran help to push their young core to the next level, and Marner would definitely do so. And he said he'd also like him potentially at least, the quietness of Anaheim area and relative lack of pesky media. And it basically goes on to say that moving Marner for Zegras as a part of a deal would make a lot of sense for both sides, and said that there would be a lot of cap space to work with. Let's start with that. This is wild. So this is proposing a Marner for Zegras type trade. I just want to get your thoughts on it. I don't know if this is probably more unrealistic than some of the other ones we've discussed, but it came out and a new suitor has been revealed for Mitch Marner.
Yeah, a little unrealistic for my liking in terms of Trevor Zegras. I'm not sure if I would like Trevor Zegras on the Leafs. I just don't know if they need another player like that. But I do think Anaheim could be a potential suitor for Mitch Marner. Like you said, great weather. It's great to live there. So I'm sure he, wouldn't mind living there. But the other question is, will he waive his no movement clause to go to a team that is definitely not competitive yet? Obviously, it's going to help them be competitive, and they have some decent young pieces there. But I'm just not sure or convinced that he's going to waive his no movement clause to go to a team that was 30th place or 29th place this season in the NHL. So not too sure on that. But there are some other names from Anaheim that I am interested in. I wonder if John Gibson would be open to waiving his no movement clause as well to come to the Leafs, as well as Mason McTavish. I think that could be very interesting. And obviously those names have been thrown out there by Leaf fans in the last couple of days, in the last couple of weeks, as potential players coming back in a Mitch Marner trade. So I think that would be interesting, as well as a draft pick. You'd solve a couple issues there. I think McTavish, while still being young, is still a very useful player and has won a championship before in the OHL. He knows what it takes to win. I feel like he would be a pretty decent acquisition for the Leafs too.
Yeah, I mean, Trevor Zegras, it's fun to talk about. I don't know if it's something the Leafs want to do. I feel like they want to address in a Mitch Marner trade some of their bigger weaknesses, which isn't necessarily Trevor Zegras, but it would give Zegras a fresh start. It would give Marner a fresh start. Maybe it could work out for both sides. But let's focus now on a more realistic option. And this from Leafs Updates. I can't stop thinking about Anaheim as a potential Marner suitor and a place he'd wave to, considering the team trajectory, nice weather, and little media attention. The Johnny Gaudreau effect. The rebuild should be coming here. And Mason McTavish is a guy, power center, absolute gamer, long-term center depth would be now with that trade. It would then be Matthews, McTavish, Fraser Minton, and Pontus Holmberg. So this might be more realistic, and if you're the Anaheim Ducks, I could see why they'd potentially move Mason McTavish to get a guy like Mitch Marner. Mitch Marner still fits Anaheim's timeline a little bit because they're obviously in a rebuild, but Marner would obviously accelerate that. And would Marner be willing to give it up? We don't know. We'll just assume that he's willing to waive his no-move clause for this because he said he's probably willing to move it, or at least reports have come out, but who really knows? Darius, I like McTavish a lot. I don't know what the deal framework would look like. You mentioned John Gibson. Would he get thrown in there? He had a really bad season last year, a really bad season the year before, and a really bad season the year before-ish. 2021 wasn't as bad. I sound like a John Gibson hater. But ultimately, I don't know what a deal would look like. I mean, straight up swap, something along those lines, maybe a pick in there. I don't know if I'd do a straight up swap if I'm the Leafs, but again, it depends on what Mitch Marner's value is at this point.
Yeah, you need a couple assets back from Anaheim for Mitch Marner. Like you're getting Mason McTavish and, plus, and a draft pick, a first round pick for sure. So that's probably what that looks like. And again, Anaheim has a lot of salary, so they can easily take on Mitch Marner if they wanted to. It just depends on if Mitch Marner wants to waive to go to Anaheim. So they're definitely a suitor. McTavish, I think, would look pretty good on the Leafs. And if you move Tavares to the wing, because like I said, I think Tavares is going to be here for the duration of his career or the rest of his career. Just depends where he is in the lineup. Probably, middle six. Maybe he turns into a wing or something like that. So if you get McTavish and he turns into a pretty decent centerman, in that role, I think you fix a couple problems right there. So this has emerged as a pretty interesting suitor for the Leafs in a potential Mitch Marner trade.
Yeah, and you'd want a first back most likely for Mitch, we've been discussing this the whole time with Mitch Marner. If you don't get a first back in some sort of deal, unless it's a proven player, then you're kind of looking at a bit of a disappointment regarding the return. But let's look at him. Darius, he's only 21 years old. You rewind a few years ago to the 2021 draft. He was the third overall pick. and he's honestly been pretty good to start his career. He's been very good. So last year, 42 points in 64 games. Again, he's more of a power center, decent at defense. He's a good. He'd be a good complementary piece to this Leafs team. But again, a straight up swap probably wouldn't happen. We're talking about a 100-point player in Mitch Marner here, and I know that he mentioned a kind of a swap, but he said just McTavish. I would like someone else. But you look at his stats here, Darius. He's a bit younger, so does he fit the Leafs timeline? I guess it kind of depends on what timeline we're talking about. He would hopefully help push them over the top with the Matthews, Nylander type thing right now. But then as we go into the future, Matthew Nyes is obviously younger, Dennis Hildeby, all these guys can start to he'd start to work well with them, and of course Easton Cowan. So it's both a long-term play, and I think he would help the team right now in a push for a Stanley Cup run.
Yeah, imagine what a player like this could do with William Nylander on his wing, right? Like you could really put a good season together. The fact that he had 42 points in only 64 games this season, and the Anaheim Ducks are as bad as they are, it's pretty impressive. He's turning into a very good player, and again, very young still. I think he's only going to be 22 this year, so very young, a good option to come up with the young core of the Leafs who are still young. I mean, Austin Matthews is only going to be 27, right? Still pretty young. So he would be a great piece. And again, like I said, you fix a couple issues there. He's still on his entry-level contract until the end of next year. So at least for next year, that fixes a couple cap issues for sure. And then you have to look at a long-term contract for him. But it could fix a couple problems next year, that's for sure. And I like Mason McTavish. He's a very good player in the OHL with the Hamilton Bulldogs. He's won. He knows what it takes to win. I'm not sure he's going to get that chance in Anaheim. So I do really like this player. I think Anaheim has emerged as a great trade target for the Leafs. And I wonder if they really take a look at this because they could solve a couple issues here. And maybe they get a defenseman out of it too. I think you need a first round pick. But again, if you can get a couple useful players like this that make a difference, that are ready to play right now, I would prefer to go that way.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, picks are only picks at the end of the day. And you look at him, born in 2003, so lots of time for him to develop. And it was a good point about the Anaheim Ducks. They're really bad, so these points are and kind of similar to John Gibson. I mean, he's playing in front of an Anaheim Ducks defense that is really bad as well. So maybe if they find a way to get Gibson in there to use him as the backup goalie for Wall, given Wall's injuries, maybe that could work out. I know Leafs fans, and myself included, probably would want to strive and shoot for a bit higher than John Gibson as your goalie. But if they have faith in Joseph Wall, then Gibson could be a decent fit to throw in. But ultimately, I think if they can get a defenseman in here, you look at John Gibson's contract here, and you look at, obviously, you can see McTavish's contract here. So you mentioned it. Rookie-level deal makes so much sense. And hopefully a deal like this can get at least discussed, because I think this is the framework for a trade. And the more we think about it, I think the more it makes sense for both sides. It's just going to be a matter of if Mitch Marner wants to move his no-wave, or I guess move his no-move clause, or waive his no-move clause, whatever you want to call it. But that'll wrap it up. Let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on this one. Does this one make more sense than some of the other ones we've discussed? Let us know. Hit the subscribe button. We're very close to 10,000, and we'll see you soon.